Sunday, June 4th, 2017, Monaco 64, home of alternative economics and contrarian views. So it's Sunday afternoon. I'd like to talk about Trump, President Trump, and his decision to withdraw from the Paris climate change accord this Friday, last week. And from looking at the reaction on social media, in the news, mainstream press, mainstream financial press, it seems like everyone is against President Trump's decision. Even China, I've heard, saying, the Chinese government says they're going to work closely with the EU to get this climate accord going. A lot of my friends on Facebook, they've put up loads of stuff saying, Trump is going to kill the planet. A lot of fear mongering about apocalyptical, consequences to this decision to withdraw from the climate change accord, which basically is an accord or a treaty amongst countries to limit their carbon emissions. President Trump, I listened to his announcement, his speech about withdrawing, and one interesting thing he said is that if the U.S. do agree to this climate accord, Paris Climate Accord, it would help to reduce temperature by 1/10 of 1 degree or 2/10 of 1 degree Celsius by 2100, which is totally insignificant. And the reason why I want to talk about President Trump's decision about the climate change and the whole backlash, the whole mainstream media is against him. Even former Mayor Bloomberg, who runs Bloomberg.com and the big Bloomberg news network, and also the FT, every mainstream media outlet is against Trump. Even China's against Trump. Europe is against Trump. Lloyd Blankfein is against Trump, even though Trump is potentially saving millions of jobs by keeping energy jobs in the U.S. by not joining this climate accord. I think it just goes to show that actually President Trump has done something right. If the whole establishment, media and business people, big corporate leaders are against him, I would say that he's done the right thing. Since he became president, since he was inaugurated, I've had my doubts about him really doing what he promised. But this decision, I think, goes to show that he could be for real in terms of helping the masses, the middle classes, and the average person, not just the elite and big corporations, even though he'll probably help him as well, but he's going to help also the public. He wants to bring jobs back to America. So one thing I want to talk about, and I made a video like almost 2 years ago when I started my YouTube channel. It's not a great video, so that's why I'm doing this again. And I'm gonna put the link to this video above, and also I'm gonna put another couple of videos that are really important relating to environmentalism, global warming as they used to call it, or climate change. And the most important one for me that really made me aware of the scam that this global warming or climate change religion was a video made in 1992 by George Hunt. And he was in the business, environmental business. He went to loads of summits where he people like Maurice Strong, who was a big environmentalist and head of the UN Environmental Agency. He was closely related to the Rockefeller Foundation, to the Rothschild Foundation. And George Hunt, in this video that you will see, if you'd like, it's only a 51-minute video, but I really recommend it. He points out and he gives, proof. He has Maurice Strong introducing Edmund de Rothschild back in 87, late 80s, early 90s, introducing him at a conference as the syntheses of economics and environmentalism. So you know who the people behind this are. Yeah, this was in 1987. And back then, Edmund Rothschild, he's on the video, he predicted the fall of the Second World. And the Second World meant at the time like the Soviet bloc. First World meant United States, Western Europe. He predicted that 2 years before. He said, oh, they're going to need a Marshall Plan. And lo and behold, the Soviet Union collapsed two years later. And then, the Rothschilds opened an office in Frankfurt, Germany, to get all the, aid, and also like a new Marshall Plan, billions of U.S. taxpayers' money to help finance the new Russia. And the other thing they talk about is the third world, which is the emerging countries after World War II. We know about the third world countries. They're now called developing countries. But then they also talk about a fourth world. And basically the fourth world, and they're quite tricky because they say it's the Fourth World Summit, and then they say, oh, it's because it's the fourth of these summits. But actually, for these guys, the fourth world is the New World Order. It's basically doing away with the first world, the Soviet Union, or the Second World, which they've done away with, do away with the third world and make the whole world fourth world, which is the New World Order, like global governance. And the only way for them to implement policies that are global and that you need like a global government is to have a global problem. What better problem to have than the environmental problem, global warming, or, climate change. And, they've got, their pockets are huge, so they've financed all the universities, all the scientists, and now we're told that it's because of us, only human activity, that the world is going to be destroyed, is going to come to an end, the sea level is going to rise and everything's going to be finished. And if we don't do, if we don't cut production, industrial production, and carbon emissions, we're being scaremongered into this. But as Mr. Trump noted in his speech last week when he withdrew from this climate change, countries like China and India and even probably Brazil, I'm not too sure about Brazil, but he noted that countries like China and India are actually going to be allowed to keep polluting, until 2030. He notes that India's carbon emissions are going to double by the year 2020. But America, they need to close all their, industrial base. They need to close all their coal mining industry. They need to, lose tons of jobs. And still, on top of that, they need to give billions and billions in aid to these third world countries in order for them to pollute more. It's just crazy. And the other video I want to note is a speech made by the former World Bank president, James Wolfenson, to the Stanford Graduate School of Business. And this one I can put up on the iCard for YouTube because it's on YouTube. This is from 2010. Basically, Mr. Wolfenson says that, when he was young, back in the 50s or 60s, 80% of the world's wealth is controlled by 20% of the population, which is the United States and Western Europe. And then, 20% of the wealth, the rest of the population of the earth only had 20% of the wealth. And he's basically saying that the strategy for the IMF, all these people who are in charge, the powers that be, the world elite, the central banks, their policy is to rebalance the world, basically redistribute the wealth from the first world countries to the rest of the world so that it becomes more like 60-40, that, the rich nations of Western Europe and North America only control 60% of the wealth, and that it's rebalanced more towards Asia, China, India, Brazil, and that these countries are allowed to catch up, which is basically a redistribution of wealth on a global scale. And the only way to do this is to have like a global tax. And that's the tax on carbon emissions, which, by the way, is also traded on the ICE exchange, which is a futures exchange. So you can trade carbon emissions on this exchange, on something based on flimsy science. I know a lot of people think, they call people like me climate change deniers, but, you have to listen to George Hunt. So the people who will benefit from this massive redistribution of wealth from the first world countries like the United States and Europe to the third world countries, the people who benefit will be the bankers, the global institutions like the IMF, World Bank, Bank for International Settlements. The politicians will benefit. The big exchanges like ICE exchange, of which Goldman Sachs, JP Morgan are big shareholders of, they will make the billions, while the average American, the average European, the average British worker will lose all the industrial jobs, and those jobs will be transferred over to Asia, South America, with the cover that it's to save, the planet. And that's what it's all about, in my opinion. And I think it's a great thing that Trump, saw this and is trying to protect the United States. I think, the New World Order or the Bilderberg crowd who run the world, in my opinion, they're going to try very hard to block Donald Trump. I've seen already that the mayor of New York says he's going to ignore Donald Trump's withdrawal from the Paris Accord. So it's going to be very interesting. So that's how I feel about this. This is this climate change, environmentalism is a ploy basically for world government, and it scaremongers people. People who don't do their homework, young people who buy into the mainstream media, they need to wake up, and hopefully they'll watch this video and watch George Hunt's video back in 1992. I don't think Mr. Hunt is alive anymore. Watch Wolfenson's video. He's an insider, James Wolfenson. But he admits that that's the goal of the, the Bilderberg New World Order crowd, to basically rebalance the wealth from the rich countries toward the third world countries. And don't get me wrong, I'm not saying that I want the whole, the rest of the world, non-first world, to be poor and live in misery, but it has to be done equitably, because the people in the first world, they've earned, the wealth that they have, the industrial base, the manufacturing base over the last 150, 200 years. And yeah, that's what I wanted to expose. As for the events last night in London, on London Bridge, the only thing I can say is that I used to use that bridge every day when I used to go to work. I used to walk over the bridge into my office in the city. One thing I can say about what's happening in terms of all these incidents we've had in Manchester and London is that it's making society even more divided, even more divide and conquer, between, members of society. I guess in the UK it would be the indigenous population against the Muslims. The same thing everywhere else. And that's not a good thing. What's the solution? I don't know. So if you enjoyed this video, please give me a thumbs up, share it far and wide, watch it on Steemit, because I'm sure the subjects I've talked about in this video, YouTube is probably not gonna, they're gonna kind of censor me with their algos. I'll probably won't earn as much as my normal economics market videos. Yeah, so steemit.com. And if you'd like to donate to my channel, there's some links below in the description. I'll talk to you later. Take care. Bye.